Hey guys, I'm back for another video and welcome to my 2D RPG game, and this is the multiplayer update. Woo! Finally! Multiplayer! But I'm not going to show it off till the end of the video, haha. So before I do that, I'm going to demonstrate some of the more minor updates and then move my way up to the bigger ones. So let's start off with some of the simple stuff. So if you guys remember from the last update video, when you load a save, it gets rid of the GUI, which I fixed in about 2 seconds, so there you go. That's not going to happen anymore. The next update is that the frame rate counter is now accurate. What would happen before is that the frame rate counter would stay at 62.5 and it would sit there no matter how well the game was performing. It could be running at 300 FPS and it will say 62.5. It could be at 5 FPS and it'll say the same exact thing. But even though right now it may not look accurate, it's stuck at 60 because of VSync. But I can turn that off, which I will be doing right now. Woo! Running in circles at 500 FPS. Woo! Oh my god, look at that frame rate. That's almost 4,000 frames a second. So yeah, that's interesting. So the next update is that I made it so I went from my old system, which is like a world anchor system, and basically what the world anchor was is like this one point where the entire map draws off of this one singular point that's like representative of the top left corner of the screen. And it was complicated, but it worked. But it turns out that XNA has a built-in camera class that does something very similar, but it's much more dynamic. It has a lot more features to it. So I switched to that, and it actually helped increase the game performance, and it provided a good step towards multiplayer, which is amazing. And actually, I'm trying to think of some other things. It added zoom and it added rotation. So I don't know how to use rotation in this game. Well, I know how, but I don't know how I can apply it and make use of it. But zooming is a part of the game, as you can see here, and this will perfectly demonstrate the next update because the game will only display what you can see, and zooming is not included in that. So if I were to zoom out, this is my plane of view if I were just playing the game. So now it only displays the portion of the map that I can see. Because what it used to do is even if it's not in view, it will still display it, which will take up a lot of power from the CPU, the GPU, and it will have a lot more RAM space for all of the textures being loaded. So, naturally, what I did is just have it test if it's inside of the camera's view, then display it. But if it's not, then don't. So what that allows me to do is make areas that are practically infinite in size and run at 60 FPS. So for example, let's load 1,000,000 tiles / create area FPS test 1000 by 1000. That's 1,000,000 tiles, guys. And there you have it, 60 FPS right there. And this area is literally 1,000 by 1,000 tiles. I'll go in the level editor to demonstrate, as you can see by the coordinates there. I will make it to 1,000 eventually. And there's the edge of that. I'm at 1,050. And I could go all the way down. Yeah, so this is like if you can imagine, an area of this size could be a whole game in itself. Like, this would be the equivalent of having the entire world of, like, Skyrim all out there, because I'm flying at, like, 5 times normal speed right now. So, I don't know if it'd be that big, but, you know, it'd be friggin' huge. So, the last minor update is that in the inventory, if you have more items than you could see, it doesn't clip out of the inventory screen anymore, because what it used to do is it would display it here and down here, but now what it does is I can go down and it'll just move all the items up, but you will not see them outside of the inventory screen. So another quick update is a change in the TP command. So what I could do now is do /TP lobby 2020. That's it. What it used to be is /TP p:, and then the player's name, and then the area, then the location. So basically, I made it a lot simpler. So if I were to type in /TP basement 5050, then that's already implying that I'm teleporting myself, because there's only 4 words, so to speak. It's /TP basement 5050. If there were 5, that would imply that I'm trying to teleport a player. For example, since multiplayer is implemented in the game, this would work if there was a player called Bob. TP Bob basement 50/50. And I think it works on yourself, but that's kind of counterintuitive because you don't have to do that. But yeah, so there's another version of it which would be like TP 50/50, which will imply that you're teleporting yourself, and it will imply that you're in the same area. So you could do that. And there's another one called TP space E and then basement 50/50, for example. And that would teleport, well, actually, then you'd have to put the NPC's name. E would represent teleporting NPCs. So basically, there's a whole bunch of variants there's a whole bunch of variants of the TP command now. So that's nice. And actually, another thing that's pretty cool is if you go into the chat, you can see new area created named FPS test. Dimensions 1000 by 1000. So yeah, the chat actually tells you when you use commands, say resolution change to 720p. So I can make this nice looking YouTube video, even though it's 1080p, but it gets upscaled, so it doesn't matter. So that's for all the minor updates. Now for the bigger ones. So this is the this is the object system in action right here. As you can see, I've got these walls here which look slightly different from the ones in the last video. But the difference is not only do they have shading, which isn't actually shading, it's just part of the texture. But look at this. Behind the wall, in front of the wall. In front of the wall, behind the wall. So now the wall's considered an object. So I no longer am making walls out of tiles, but they are their own thing, like an object. I'm just calling them objects because that's the name of the class file. But basically what the object system does is it allows me to put down objects of varying size, shape, and hit detection. Now you're probably like, what do you mean varying hit detection? I will show you. Okay, for example, if I were to put down that, right? You can't see the invisible barrier, but it is right there. I can't walk into it, right? It's an invisible barrier, as you would expect. So the way this works in code is that I would define it, be like, okay, it's going to be called invisible barrier, and then I give it the link to the texture in the game, and then it will display the texture, and then I give it its size, which would be 1 tile by 1 tile, because it's only 1 tile in size. And then I define hit detection for it. So hit detection would be represented by a vector, which is just 2 numbers, essentially. So the first number would be how it acts. For example, if I put a 0, that would mean no hit detection. You can run right through it. But if you were to put 1, that would mean it's solid, which means you can't approach it from any side. But if you had, for example, 6, that's what the fence uses and what the wall uses in the bottom tile here. And that allows you to approach it from the left and right, but not up and down, which is why you'd be able to, for example, walk up to a wall and walk. You're technically walking through the wall when you go sideways like this. Like I'm going through the wall right now, technically. But when I try to go up, it won't let me because, of course, you can only approach it from the left and right. So taking this idea one step further, if I were to give myself 2, that's what the wall is. So this one is a 1 in width, 2 in height object that you can put down. So the way this would work is it's defined the same way as the first object, but I have to define a second hit detection vector. One for the top and one for the bottom. So the one for the top would be 0, 0 because you want to be able to walk through the top tile of the wall. And the bottom would be 6, which is the equivalent of a fence because it lets you walk behind it and in front of it, but not through. So taking this idea another step further, if I were to give myself, I think it's 9 is a tree. So boom, a giant tree. This one is 6 by 8 tiles. Now this one's a little bit more complicated. So if I were to use tile, there you go. That would represent the hit detection for the tree, right? It's the same size as 6 by 8 tiles, but I'm going to use wood to represent where the hit detection is. So this is the hit detection for the tree. All of those blocks that are wood are solid, but the rest would represent nothing. So there's a lot of nothing in the hit detection code for the tree because, of course, I can walk behind a tree. The leaves are up above the trunk, so of course I can walk in this area. But you can't walk through the trunk. Of course, I didn't like put hit detection. That's just for demonstration purposes. But yeah, so I can walk behind the tree, I can walk off to the side, but I cannot walk through it. So that's how the new object system works. It's more dynamic, allows you to have objects of any size and any hit detection. So there you go. Actually, there is one more thing I want to show you. Putting all these new features together, I want to show you an area that I like to call Pallet Town. And here we are in the one and only Pallet Town from Pokemon Leaf Green and Fire Red. And I'm pretty sure it's in the originals as well, but don't quote me on that because that was the first games I ever played from Pokemon was Leaf Green and Fire Red. So there you go. This is my copy of Pallet Town. Of course, you got your house over here. For example, this is supposed to represent a mailbox, but of course, now that I have an object system, I can make a mailbox, but I'll do that later. So it says Brandon's mailbox, so I could just be like bing, 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 put some stuff in there, and have a good time. You can't go in the buildings yet, there isn't anything there, but I believe this is just mailbox. I believe this is your rival's house. And then you have Professor Oak, of course, his laboratory down here. Then you got some fences. Then you got a tree. The tree's not supposed to be there. I just put that there for a test reason. I mean, it doesn't have to be a perfect copy anyway. And here's some rocks, which have their own hit detection code. Actually, one thing I want to note is that it's not actually code that's telling these objects how their hit detection works. It's in a notepad file that's in the game, so you don't have to change the code of the game to implement a new object. And for that matter, it's the same way with tiles, NPCs. Pretty much everything in this game works off of, like, grabbing data at least, works off of notepad files. So if you wanted to mod this game, you could very well just type in some new, I quote, code, not really code, just like my way of, I told the game how to recognize these notepad files. So you could literally take the exe for this game, download it, and then you could go into the notepad file and add a new object. And then just give it new parameters and then put the texture in the textures folder, and then it will just work. So I think that's awesome because that'll make modding so easy in this game. You don't have to change the code for anything, object related at least. So that's an awesome feature, but let's get back to Pallet Town. Look at all the trees, right? Look at all these freaking trees. I think there's 1,000 of them because I actually tested how many objects are in the area. It said like 800 something trees, and the rest were invisible barriers that go in the buildings. So that's just insane. Look at all the trees, and I added water, which isn't really special because it's just a bunch of tiles. It's nothing special, just yeah. So water's just a tile, and then you have the lighter, brightness of grass, and you have the glass texture, which has been there, but I haven't showed it much. So yeah, this is showing the potential of the current object system, which by the way will also be used for buildings. So these ugly buildings made out of tiles will be no more because I can actually put in actual buildings with their own hit detection, which of course would just be absolutely huge though. If you can imagine, like I have to put down a vector for each and every tile, so this just the amount of space on the notepad file this would take up for hit detection would be huge. But yeah, so I think that's just amazing. I can't wait to use this new object system to make things like mailboxes, signs, maybe taller fences, and then I might merge the container system with the object system. So for example, a mailbox would work because it's kind of both. It's considered an object, but it's also a container. So I might merge that, and same thing with doors. I don't know if I'll merge the door system with the object system. Maybe. We'll see. A lot of potential with this version of the game, so let's get to the part you're all waiting for, which is multiplayer. So let's go. So here we are in multiplayer. Finally, I managed to do this in the game. I honestly, like, I know how I did it, but damn, it was a complicated process. So here we are. I'm player 1, which is the one on the left, and this is Bob. Meet Bob, everybody. This is player 2. You can't really do anything with him unless you have an Xbox controller, which I do, so I can move him. And then boom, now he's inside, and I could go and chase him. I'm coming for you! Ah! So there's a lot of things you could do with this. So for example, if I were to play as Bob, maybe I don't want these hitboxes anymore, so I'll just drop them, And again, this is with the Xbox controller. Then player 1 is with the keyboard. And then I'll take that. Thank you very much for the items, good sir. And here's some coins in return. Then he could just be like, oh, I want those coins. Boop. And then something that's kind of funny that I could do in the level editor is like /use, I don't know, tile. And then I could just run up to him. And then he'll be walking and I'd just be like, wah. And then he'd be like, whoa, where does tiles come from? Where are they? Where? And then just appear out of nowhere. And then I could like erase things and just, oh man, that'd be so much fun. So you can see the implementation of this. You could have two guys in the level editor at the same time. Now, of course, the level editor is a feature for the Xbox controller, but there isn't a way to actually put down anything for now. But you can at least move the camera around, see everything, and then go back. So that's cool. I'm trying to figure out other features for this. There is currently support for 1 player, 2 players, 3 players, and 4 players. And when you have 3 players, what it does is the top half of the screen belongs to player 1, and then the bottom half of the screen is shared between players 2 and 3. And I'm trying to think, 4 player is what you would expect. It just splits the screen into 4. I don't know what I was saying with 5 players maximum before. That doesn't really make any sense now that I think about it, because you can really only split it evenly to 4 people at once. So I'm hoping it will be dynamic in the fact that you can have 3 players with Xbox controllers, 1 with keyboard and mouse, or you could just have 4 people with Xbox controllers. So that hasn't been implemented yet. For now, it's just kind of hard-coded that player 1 is the one with keyboard and mouse. But yeah, so there you go. Actually, zooming out with half the screen looks a little weird, doesn't it? But that's it for this update, guys. Actually, there are a couple more commands. Never mind. Let's get to the commands. So if I were to do /TP Bob, then it teleports me to Bob. So that's another variant of the TP command, just teleports me to a player. But there's so much more I can do here. So I can do the /sudo command. So /sudo, then I put in a player's username, so Bob. So what sudo does is it makes it act like the person you're acting on is typing the command. So /sudo Bob, and then I put in a command. So for example, let's do /noclip, right? There you go. Sudo Bob noclip. Because this could actually be useful because you can't type in commands yet as the Xbox controller. And as you can see, it turned on noclip for Bob. It acts like he typed in the command. Now, if I were to do it again, then he is no longer in noclip. So this could be used for other things. I could also do sudo Bob instigate, and it will make this guy chase after him, which is actually quite funny. And then I could just do /calm to calm that guy down. But yeah, so there's /sudo. Another one is /kill all. And then there you go. Kills the NPCs. All of them in the area. Alright guys, that's it for this video. So I hope you guys liked it. It was really a huge update. And I'm going to teleport Bob to Pallet Town because I can. So make sure to leave a like down below on this video. And make sure to put suggestions for other features in the comments down below. Because this game is starting to finally come together because of this object system. And I can't wait to implement a new form of multiplayer. Like, for example, now it's split screen, but maybe LAN or even online multiplayer or even massive online multiplayer where you can have like hundreds of people on one server at once. That would be really cool. So before I can do that, I'm obviously going to have to figure out how like server applications work, so that's going to be fun. But yeah, so leave your suggestions in the comments below, and if you want to see updates to this game before the video comes out, you can always check out my Twitter, because I will usually update you guys on a feature the second I add it. For example, the split screen system, I posted a screenshot of that, and a little explanation. So that's a nice way to keep in touch with this game, but if you want to play it, that's a different story. I have a Patreon page. So the way Patreon works is that it's a monthly subscription service, and you can pledge any amount you want. It could be $1, it could be $2, $5, $10, or it could be 50 cents. Really, anything works, but if you want to play this game, you're going to have to donate $1 a month on my Patreon page, and that will grant you access to the download page for the newest version of my game every time it comes out. So once a new version comes out, you look at the Google Docs that's shared with you, and then the new link will pop up for you. There are already 5 people that have access to this game every time I give an update. So then they can play the game, they can make some maps, they can run around, have fun, and of course, as the game gets further and further in development, there'll be more and more to do. So yeah. So that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later.